when you promise something, you have to deliver. There is no such thing as a small project. Even the ones that are small that may seem inconsequential, it causes a big ripple effect if you do not deliver on that small piece. And that's where that reliability comes into play.
Yeah, 100%. You only have one reputation in this world.
Exactly.
One of my executive coaches that I work with has told me that trust is gained in ounces and lost in buckets. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, James Kim of PKU Industries. He's the president and founder of the company. James, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we've been really excited to have you on since we had our first conversation. And one of the things I thought was I always love people's origin stories.
Yeah.
And you had a really interesting one that, and I thought it's interesting how your background just gives you these building blocks, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a totally different trajectory of where you are, and you seem like you have put just the right Lego pieces in place to get where you are today. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Oh, thank you for the flattering introduction. If I look back on my career and what I've done, I don't see anything extraordinary. In fact, a lot of the instances came about and I just followed the route that was provided to me. So just to give you a quick background, I'm an engineer by trade. I actually sailed on board large merchant vessels on chemical tankers, and did that for a few years, decided that's probably not very conducive to a very good social life.
Yeah. It's hard to meet girls.
Yeah. So I ended up joining the best man of my wedding at a nuclear power station as an engineer. So I did that for a few years. And then after that, my course of my career actually took a turn following the path of following my wife, my present wife. So when she moved away from South Miami, I had to look for something that followed her. And that took me to working for first at Siemens Westinghouse, and then eventually finding a job with GE in 1999. I think that's where majority of my, my career path took shape. From GE. Started out again as an engineer, but slowly transferred into the business and the service business, and eventually running the global O&M business for GE. And then, opportunity came up to come back to Korea. And again, my wife's entire family is in Korea. So you'll see a common theme here.
So all this all to your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
As we all do.
I know it all to her. And I moved back to Korea to work for a large conglomerate called Doosan. And Doosan, for those of you who don't know, Doosan is essentially the major power generation equipment manufacturer and services provider in Korea. And so I joined the EPC team as a commercial director and did that for a few years, and then ended up running the R&D for the gas turbine technology that essentially made Korea the fifth country to possess the technology to be able to produce gas, heavy duty gas turbines. Did that for a few years, and then an opportunity to work with an investment bank called Macquarie, Australian-based bank, but they've got a huge presence here in the U.S. Worked for them as a managing director overseeing assets. And then through that position, I was then led into another opportunity to be the CEO of a hydrogen producing and distributing company out of Korea. After that rotation was completed, I decided to move back. And in doing so, an acquaintance of mine who is an owner of an engineering company in Korea had an idea that market conditions in both Korea and the U.S. is changing. So the idea was to create a company here in the U.S. to help facilitate a lot of those changes in the marketplace, and how the investments are, trending in the future in terms of industrial plants and industrial investments. So that decision brings me to about a year ago, when I, moved to Houston, Texas, and created PKU Industries.
Wow. So that is it's just really interesting, because each one of those blocks, you got the whole maritime world, and then GE. We've talked to so many guests that are ex-GEers, and it's such a wonderful training ground. I really, I just see the track record of the people who have come out of GE, and I think it just teaches you so much, business acumen to go with the technical acumen. I think they do a better job of that than most companies of preparing their employees to really think about things like a true business person instead of just purely a technical person.
Exactly. And their leadership training, everything I've experienced thus far, is by far one of the best in the industry, for sure.
Yeah, very well balanced. You're basically get a PhD in business.
Essentially. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then, I guess, what were the trends that you guys were seeing when you're working with your friend in both the U.S. and Korea that made you say, this is something that is convincing, and I would love to come to work to help you realize this?
Yeah. I think what we were seeing was a desire, or the demand, for industrial companies to invest in the U.S. because I think the macro trend that we saw for the world was that U.S. was going to be the growth engine for at least for the foreseeable future, especially around petrochemicals, refineries, oil and gas, and especially around power generation. And as you know, a lot of demand for new power generation has come about because of hyperscalers and data centers. And so when we look at that and saw that that's the macro trend, and a lot of the investors that want to invest in the U.S. are actually Korean. For example, there's semiconducting companies, there are automobile companies, there are petrochemical companies, there are companies that need the LNG, and therefore they co-invest in the U.S. because they need that LNG back home in Korea. Those are just few examples of reasons why there are a lot of Korean companies that have made the decision to come invest in the U.S. And that we definitely saw a large uptick in the activities around those investments, and thought that, is there a place where a company that understands both cultures, not just the engineering aspect, obviously that's very important, the technical aspect, but also the culture and how the companies and how the regulatory agencies, how they work, and to be able to merge those different cultures towards a common goal in achieving the goal of a particular project. So that's kind of how the genesis of the idea of creating PKU Industries came about.
That is such an I think that's a really remarkable way to think about it. I think the trend was a really good.
Yeah.
But I think to recognize the fact that, because I think people underestimate that cultural aspect so many times. They go, well, look, this is engineering, and people can come together on solving a technical engineering problem regardless of culture, because math and physics are the same no matter where you live.
Exactly.
But the cultures can be really, really challenging.
Right.
And, you see JVs fail. You see a lot of these things fail because people don't know how to negotiate, or they don't know how to communicate necessarily, or, to know that when they say this, they really mean this.
Exactly.
And all those little frailties that people, I think, just go, we'll work that stuff out. We got to solve this technical problem. Especially technical people really believe that.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think you bring up a very good point. So in my experience back with Doosan in the EPC world, you look at some of the projects that kind of go off tilter, so to speak. And the reason being is because there are assumptions made. So what would be very easy to execute in, let's say, in Korea, because the access to the regulatory body, or the access to resources, or access to supply chain, to be able to carry out something very, very easily. It's like not even a thought, but you go overseas and it becomes a major, major challenge.
Sure.
And I think some of the things that I observed was that it's underestimating those challenges, or in some cases not even realizing that those risks are there in the first place. And when people approach risk as they occur, that's when your budgets are blown, your schedules, you can't meet your schedule, because you have to deviate and change, and all these things affect the outcome of a project. And so that's one of the things that we stress, is that, especially myself and the people who are now working for PKU Industries, we focus a lot on execution side and the experience of executing different types of projects, and what are the related risks associated with it. And, in the eyes of a client, through the lens of a client, we want to approach these projects to say, all right, what can derail a project in terms of quality, in terms of cost, and in terms of delivery. So those are the key fundamental structural things that we have to take into account when we want to measure whether or not this project can be successful or not. And that is an underlying premise for all things, starting from engineering preliminary design to detailed design, to the construction, to commissioning, to startup. All these things have to be kept in mind, and they have to be these different phases have to be integrated. And so that's the challenge that we want to help our clients get through with minimal or no impact to the outcome of the project.
That is well said, and the right way to think about it. Because how many big projects do you see go over budget, past the allotted amount of time, because they are complex.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily the engineering complexity that does it. I think it's those other things you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at a project and you look at, if everything went as expected, then it's very hard to distinguish a good project to a bad project, because every project has a plan that meets the budget and is delivered on schedule. On day one, every project is on time and on budget.
Yeah, that Gantt chart looks so pretty.
Yeah, it looks so pretty. And, you do a estimate, S-curve, and everything looks perfect. It's when the risks that emerge that you didn't anticipate,
Yeah,
how you how the organization actually deal with that. But before you deal with it, how well they've anticipated it. Is there a plan? Is there a contingency? If something goes wrong, what do we do? Unless you thought about these things, it really is hard to keep project on time and on budget. And that's where I think when you hear some of the horror stories from Korean investors who have invested and tried to build a plant or build out a manufacturing capability in the U.S., they've run into those sort of situations, and in some cases they've actually just given up and then went back home, and which is very unfortunate. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the investor, bad for the local community. It's bad for the company. It's just not good for anyone. It's not good for the city or the
workers,
community, the workers.
The guy who built a hamburger shop next to where it's going. All these things.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
So, what we're hoping is that with a little more insight at the front end of planning, that includes the engineering, that we could alleviate a lot of these potential pains in the future.
Yeah. Well, and we kind of got down the road a little bit, but for the people who don't know PKU, just give us a 30,000-foot view of PKU, what you guys are about, the kind of projects you work on.
So we primarily focus on industrial projects, industrial plants around industries such as petrochemicals, industries around power generation, industries such as chemical production. We're also very well versed in hydrogen and carbon capture. Those are some of the specialty type industries that we're very good and well versed in. We are actually co-owned. PKU is co-owned by a company called Fields Engineering, and they're a engineering firm that has been in existence for over 20 years. They're about 380 people strong, 250 plus full-time engineers. So there's a big, massive weight of engineering knowledge behind PKU Industries. And their experiences range from doing feasibility studies, assessing the situation from an engineering perspective, all the way into doing the construction and commissioning and startup as well. So feasibility studies to pre-feed, feed meaning front-end engineering and design, doing feed design, doing basic design, doing detailed design, coordinating procurement, supply chain, construction, and then wrapping it all together in final commissioning and startup. So that's what's behind us now. PKU eventually wants to get to that point, but initially we're going to focus a lot on engineering services and support and logistics. So that's what PKU Industry do.
Yeah, that is it's really nice to be able to have that nimbleness and being small, but to have a 800-pound gorilla behind you.
Yeah, I think it poses a unique opportunity. And I say that because, as you know, the whole industry is right now in a flux. Every industry is in a flux, and primarily around AI and how to incorporate AI, how to take advantage of, how to not stay ahead of the pack, not fall behind. And one of the benefits that we have is that because we are relatively new and we are basically creating this company from the ground floor, we have an opportunity to actually adapt a lot of these tools that are being developed as we speak, so that we become a more lean and customer-focused company. And that I think it makes it easier for us to do it, to build it from a ground floor rather than changing something that had been built for many years. So I think that's a unique opportunity. And also, if need be, from a knowledge standpoint, from resources standpoint, we've got that partner company in Korea backing us up if we need to. So that's a great opportunity, I think, for you.
You get the best of both worlds there. I think about that. And there's a lot of examples in business of companies or of well, the one I'm thinking about is China. You know, China didn't when they industrialized their country, they didn't have landlines.
Yeah.
So they just went straight to work on that infrastructure. So they just went straight to cellular and then became the leader in cellular.
Right.
And you think about that, they just skipped that whole level because they came in at just the right time.
Yeah.
And as cellular technology is blowing up, I feel like that's the way you guys are. You're like, hey, we're building a company from ground up.
Yeah.
This AI is this really powerful tool.
Right.
Just incorporate it in everything we do from day one.
Exactly.
But if you had to go and retrofit every process, everything you've done to incorporate AI, I think you're going to really struggle. We've been doing it at our company. We're a young company.
Yeah.
So we're just due to the nature of the CEO myself. I was not a super process oriented person. And so we're re-looking at our processes now with AI and it's remarkable that I don't think that you can just bolt AI onto your current processes from my understanding. I think it just changes everything so much. And I think if you try to incorporate AI into your current processes, I think you're really selling yourself short.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it from an AI first perspective,
right.
You go, well, why do we even need steps 3 through 8?
Yeah.
Let's just do these 2 steps and we're done. We need one more quality control step, which we already had in there anyway. Right. We don't need to use this software. We don't need to use this thing, and we don't need to connect it to this other piece of software. Just have the AI do it natively.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, we don't need it. Do we need all that software that we were using before? It's just really eye-opening when you think about it. And you can go in with fresh eyes like you guys are doing and just build it the way without that being held back by your preconceived notion of how it should be.
Well, I mean, I think you're spot on what you're saying. And initially, when we were looking at this, we kind of knew the direction. We knew that AI was something that we needed to adopt into our processes. But we went out and used the commercially available LLMs. We paid the subscriptions, the premium subscriptions, and tried the large language models, which generally tends to look at the whole world. And really, it's trying to trend and try to form fit trends or trying to anticipate how things occur in the bigger picture.
Sure.
And we tried that approach, but I think our business model was just specific enough that there were some hallucinations, there were some ideas that were, we caught and we said, no, that's not what we want to say. This is not how we want the process to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea was, well, I think we have to teach the AI what we want it to do. It's kind of like you're hiring a new employee into the organization and you're trying to teach the process that we follow and why we do certain things. And so that led us down the path of, instead of a large language model, LLM, we focus on working with a developer and a small language model.
Yeah.
Which is more specific to what we need.
Sure. Train on your data without the
Exactly.
worry about a hallucination or that I feel like the LLMs, they really kind of shoot right down the middle of the fairway with their answers.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. But we may not want to approach it from the middle of the fairway. We might want to hit it towards the right end because we'll have a good approach, and not have to go over a bunker or a lake. But in any case, that's kind of where we're at is working with an AI developer to create an SLM that includes not only the common knowledge of rules and regulations specifications, but also and what we call an IP vault, intellectual property vault, which is unique to the experiences of Peel's Energy and PKU, where we take all of that knowledge and we put it into this vault. And the AI agent would have access to that vault. And we give it priorities in terms of decision making. Do you rely on our past experiences first, or do you rely on specifications? Obviously, compliance and those take precedence, but sometimes there are gray areas where it can go one way or another, in which case then our intellectual property based on experience that comes into play and helps. And so that's kind of the gist of the AI tool that we're trying to develop.
That sounds really interesting because I can see that where your client specifications come in, and, when you look at those, there's maybe 20 different ways you could do it based on the specification. If it's written poorly, 100 ways to do it. And so you're training the AI to say, look, when you come into these situations, here's the way our preferred method of dealing with such ambiguity or when there's question, and maybe even, hey, flag this up to an engineer, and you get this and give us some options on how you would want to do it, but let us make the decision.
Yeah. Have you ever heard some of the clients say, "Oh, this is nice, but we believe it's over-engineered." And that term over-engineered typically is blindly looking at all of the specifications or regulations and just going word for word on what they're saying. But in a lot of ways, you have to look behind what the words say and what the intent was. And you have to actually understand what the history was, why it came about.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you take all of that into context, then you are able to have an open discussion with the permitting office, for example, or a regulatory agency, and tell them, we understand the intent, and we think this design is enough to deal with the potential risks or liabilities that could occur, or potential accidents, and in preventing those accidents. And we have a discussion, and that's how I think the better engineered projects, they come about with open dialogue, understanding what the intent is for the specifications, and not just following to the letter of the law.
I think good engineers think that way, and other, a lesser engineer goes, "Yep, these are the specs. I'm going to go nerd out and go and engineer this thing."
Right.
But I think, especially in the energy industry, I see it a lot. Yeah. That, something happened in 1923.
Yeah, exactly.
And that changed the overall company spec, and for some reason it just stays there, this ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
And you look at it, if you look at it with fresh eyes, you go, what happened here? Why this seems based on the new materials in the industry, or new designs have come out since 1923. Maybe we don't need that anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, there's materials, there are new ways to do model, such as airflow. You can model, using computational fluid dynamics, CFD modeling. These have become very, very sophisticated over the years. And so you could actually model a lot of things and use that as a basis for the design that you're putting forward. There are structures, or there are parts that you can 3D print versus you couldn't do that before. There are some really wild looking geometries that you would never been able to manually machine.
Yeah.
But now you could print it on a 3D printer. And it's actually much more effective in terms of, rigidity, strength, flexibility, structure, and all that, but at like a tenth of the cost.
Right. And you might not you only need 50 of them.
Yeah.
To go, yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
I grew up a machinist's son, so I grew up working in machine shops my whole life.
Okay.
I'm old, so it was back when the manual machine days, so running lathes and mills, no CNCs, and I also have a 3D printer. And I go, man, I'd look at some of the parts and I'd say, there's no way we would ever be able to machine something like this.
You would never have engineered it that way.
Yeah.
When you didn't have the 3D print capability.
Oh, it's straight. Circular.
Yeah. But now imagination is much, it's like a wide open field in terms of what you can apply from an imagination point of view. And by the way, my father also was we ran a machine shop up in New York too.
Oh, no way.
Many, many years.
Oh, that's cool. With the compare his thoughts. So you probably have metal shavings and guns in you too, just like I still do.
Yeah.
It was before the safety and PPE was a big thing in those worlds.
Yeah. When you learn by experience.
Yeah, exactly. When you learn from the old
cut yourself, you say, okay, don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that's really hot.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Yeah, we'll have to swap some more stories on that another time. But one thing that when we were talking earlier, that was a story that you told me that really captivated me about the time when you were at Doosan. And you were talking about dealing with some really difficult situations there. And how is that, can you maybe share that story with us and talk about how that's kind of changed the way you think about dealing with complexities on projects?
Yeah, I think one of the key reasons why I was asked to join Doosan, the EPC team, was there was a massive and rapid growth of the EPC business overseas, internationally, predominantly in the Middle East. In Southeast Asia, there was a huge boom at the time when I joined. And there were some projects that didn't go as planned, like all projects. And there were some liquidated damages that were built into the contract that was designed to protect the client. But in a way, the liquidated damages actually protected the contractor as well. So it's actually a fair method, a proven and true method, the liquidated damages. But anyway, they kind of dug themselves a big hole where they were faced with massive liquidated damages. Part of it was, number one, the projects were, multi-billion-dollar projects, billion-plus projects. And because Doosan, though they're good in Korea, they weren't as well known overseas. And so some of the contract terms and conditions stipulated a large sum of money, tied up with liquidated damages. And so part of, I think, the reason I was hired was to come in and to sort through these things. First of all, put the fires out, go and negotiate with the clients.
Post-contract, that's all.
Yeah, they gave me all the fun job. And then, and also put a process in place that would kind of keep the business away from those situations in the future. So, a lot of the sort of delays, sort of like the change orders that are pending, arbitration issues, a lot of them actually stem from misunderstanding one another. And when you look at it from the lens of, all right, how do I win from a contractor? Well, the traditional way of winning in a project is to make as much money as you can.
Yeah.
And when you're done, knock off the dust off your hands and walk away, and you're fat, dumb, and happy, right?
Yeah. Laugh all the way to the bank.
Yeah. And I think when you think like that, you tend to get into a situation where, there's disagreements with the client. And of course, I would be willing to make a bet that there is 0 EPC companies and 0 projects that have gone without any error from the EPC.
Yeah.
Right? So every company, every contractor is going to make a mistake.
Sure. It's just too much complexity. It's just statistically, it's going to happen even if you're great.
Right. But I think the companies that do this well, they align themselves with the client. And they use that alignment with the goals as a basis in having the discussion. So let's say a permitting delay occurred. Well, in a traditional way, you're just going to approach and say, well, that's not my problem, because the contract says the permitting issue is your fault.
Yeah.
Your responsibility, Mr. Client, and go take care of it, please. But I think a collaborative EPC would approach it as, hey, this is delaying my end of the work. It's going to delay my contractors to come in and do their work, and it's going to really put an issue all the way down the line, and that ripple effect is much bigger than just a simple delay and maybe even a change order.
Sure.
So when you approach it that way, the client is much more conducive to saying, well, what can we do to resolve this?
Yeah.
Let's try to, approach it from the same side of the table. And how do we reduce the effect of this? And oh, by the way, when we're done with this, Mr. Client, we will do whatever we can for your best interest. But at the end of the day, we can't be held reliable for this. They fully understand.
Yeah.
And they say, well, and also because of this, I've got to take a little more time. I've got to issue a change order to address this. And those conversations can go a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And overall, I think there was a statistic that you approach it that way, the overall project schedule, the impact of a project schedule is reduced by like 50-60%.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about that collaborative approach of getting ahead of the problem and seeing that, because I think, like you're saying, a good EPC company will see that coming.
Yeah.
An experienced person running that, experienced project managers are going to go, we haven't heard from them on this.
Yeah.
Wonder how that's working out. Let me get in touch with them and anticipate what could go wrong here.
Yeah.
But I think so many people are not as proactive with that.
Right.
And because they can get bogged, they've got a lot of stuff to do on an EPC project. There's no shortage of things to do. So there's easy to get lost behind it. But then there's also that transactional nature of, that's on you. This is on me.
Yeah.
I think that the world is, I think that transactional type of a relationship was something that was really a 20-year-old thing that shouldn't be going on today, because the world's really changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, the good thing is customers can work with who they want to work with. I mean, obviously people have to bid on things and you got to be in the ballpark, but they will really remember those instances when you had their back and you were really trying to help them out beyond and not gotcha.
Yeah. And sometimes some of those decisions on wanting to collaborate may impact your bottom line, but it may, the way I see it is it impacts your bottom line short term in the immediate. So if you are living day to day around financial metrics and your boss is on your back to making sure your financial metrics are met, then you really are kind of forced into that situation where you're defending yourself and defending your company as a contractor. But if you were given a little bit of a leeway and say, look, we understand that for the long term, we may have to take a hit, our bottom line, but it's for the benefit of the client. And try to work something out with the client. Then if project managers and engineering managers, if they're given that leeway, they tend to do a much better job and produce much better results. And I think that's some of the things that are in the back of my mind based on the experience that I've had that I like to incorporate.
It's interesting because I think sometimes, and I've seen this, not so much on the EPC world, but on the upstream oil and gas side, where service companies and the operator, they will really work hard to get contracts that have a lot of gotchas in there, and they're revenue generators.
Right.
They're revenue because
exactly
they say, look, well, we're going to bid on it to so we can win it, because if we don't bid low, we won't. Low enough, we won't win. And so everybody's doing it.
Right.
But then they put these gotchas in there about, if we have to come in, we're going to charge you a mileage fee, and the base is 100 miles all the way from the place, and all these little gotchas that will get the invoice or the invoice and the change orders and all that stuff up to what they really wanted to charge in the first place.
Right. I mean, it's a fine balance, and it's of course, there are projects where you have to bid, and you might be underwater from day one in terms of hours and, what you're being compensated. But look, if you made the decision, you have to live by it. You can't, if that's not what you're comfortable with, you shouldn't have bid that way. Now, if you bid it, here's my philosophy is that in any project, there will come a point, I'm not going to say 100%, but a lot of the times, where a client's going to need you for something above and beyond. And how you respond to that. And you don't bring up, well, give me an invoice, give me a PO. And I mean, not an invoice, give me a PO. And we'll get working. No, you say, look, we have a relationship. Let me try to understand. And let me try to figure out a way we could solve this. Focus on that first. And when you come to agreement on the way to approach it, then you talk about, well, here are the financials, here are the commercial aspect of it. Then I think they're much more open-minded to listening to it. It's really how you approach you may call those gotcha opportunities, because they are opportunities to kind of make up if you bid low. But if you, like I said, fundamentally, if you have intrinsically your mindset is to get this project up and running for the benefit of the client and to satisfy, what they need. If you have that in the, that lay down the foundation of how you operate, then I think the chances of coming to an agreement, a commercial agreement, is much, much higher.
Yeah, I agree. And I totally agree with what you said about the way I always like to frame it with clients is, if you're going to lose money and you're going to be underwater from day one and all that, I would say, never make a deal that you're going to hate yourself in the morning if you win it.
Exactly. So, I mean, be honest. I mean, if that's what they're expecting, chances are the customer's doing it because they're under a budget constraint.
Yeah.
So they don't have much money to begin with. from their client, for example, their off-taker. And so do you want to get into that situation? And now you're kind of entangling yourself from day one.
Well, yeah, and in some of these larger projects, I've seen them die because they got 10% of the way through building it and they ran out of money.
Exactly.
I've seen, there's some big infrastructure on the east side of town where you go, wow, that's a nice foundation that was poured.
Exactly. You mobilize all these people and those are tragic stories.
They really are. And boy, and I know people got caught up in that stuff.
Yeah.
And they paid their vendors and they've already got their contractors, and all of a sudden there's no, a lot of people get left holding the bag.
Yeah.
And then off come the lawsuits, and it's just a nightmare situation. Yeah. And I guarantee my friend that got involved in that stuff would be very happy to have just walked away from that proposal when he saw it.
Right.
It's hard though.
It's hard. I mean, it's your friend probably had the best intention to try to do the best that they can, but
it's big name people and big name project, and just went belly up.
Yeah, things happen.
Yeah. Force majeure is a thing. That's the reason why lawyers know that really well.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that you talked to me about that I thought was a really interesting angle was this idea of asymmetric warfare.
Yeah.
And what's going on in world geopolitics and macro economics and everything that's going on in the world right now. But one of the things you talked about was the way you gave an analogy of asymmetric warfare to the way you're setting up your company.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe we can walk our viewers through that.
Well, obviously, I don't want to align myself to the side that is playing the, in some people's eyes, the unfair way of competing or fighting.
Sure.
But the reality is that the effectiveness of asymmetric warfare is very, very blatant. I mean, nobody can deny the effect, right?
Yeah.
You look at the might of the U.S., and there's nobody in the world who would doubt that the might of the U.S. military is the greatest in the world, greatest in history, bar none. Nobody would deny that fact. But you look at some of the confrontations that's going on, and the resulting, it looks impressive, but the result is that, the other side, the adversary, is fighting with a much, much smaller budget.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, from a difference point of view, there's not that huge a gap. I use that approach to EPC project management. Now, full disclosure, I'm not talking about the billion plus projects, because I don't think companies such as myself can handle projects of that size. But, a medium, $100 to, $200-300 million projects that are smaller in nature. Mm-hmm. So if you do a comparison against a large player versus a smaller, relatively smaller player, and we were to go head to head in terms of the resources that are allocated, the sort of documentation that would be produced, and we were going to, meet, head to head on every one of those deliverables. I think we would 99% of the time lose out, because they've got, the larger players have the resources, they have the know-how, they have the process, and they can do things, and they've got the relationship in a lot of cases too.
Yeah, that's super important.
So it's an unfair competition, unfair battleground, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in order to win, you have to consider different ways that you can kind of level the playing field. And what I mean by that is can we deliver what's important to the client? Again, back on quality, cost, and delivery. Can we meet all of these things or compete in all of these three aspects, but at a smaller scale?
Mm-hmm.
And one of there are several things that have to come into play in order to make asymmetric project management come to fruition, come to develop the results that clients want. One is the advent of AI and really leveraging that to stay lean and be very quick and responsive. That's one. The other one is we formed here in Houston like-minded smaller companies, but they have their own set of core competencies and their expertise. And it has to be complementary to what we do, but we form kind of a coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we approach the problem and we stay in our core competency lanes, the swimming lanes.
Yeah.
And we have an agreement in place beforehand. How are we going to approach this to deliver for the client what the client needs?
Yeah.
And
establish the swim lanes.
Yeah. And we would be very good at, we would focus on what we are good at.
Right.
And you focus on what you're good at. And we would integrate it together and we'd present it to the client and would be very transparent about it.
And I think when you can combine those, best in class boutique companies, you're going to get way better than more of a pretty good from all those things than you would from a larger firm.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to hire best in class people at every position in your company.
Exactly.
And then if you do, there are companies that do that.
Yeah.
But those people have to be paid very well.
Exactly.
And then you're going to really to be able to make payroll for those big people and big salaries, whether you're using them or not.
Exactly.
Every 2 weeks, you got to charge a lot. And so now you kind of price yourself out of it.
Well, it's I think it creates sort of a death spiral.
Yeah.
If you have too much of an overhead. Maybe right now in a lot of these EPCs, there's a lot of demand, so that's not a big issue. But there'll come a time where maybe the demand will fall off a little bit, and now you got to deal with all this overhead, fixed cost. And the way a lot of the companies do it is they basically peanut butter those fixed costs onto each project, and therefore the projects become less competitive. And when you can't win a project because it's higher in cost and not competitive, then you've got to actually peanut butter more of the overhead.
Yeah.
And you become less competitive. And that's that spiral that I've seen some companies fall into. The beauty of this coalition is if the demand falls off, we're so lean and small in nature that we're able to adapt. To where the demand is. That's one. And because we are experts in what we do, and we're going to leverage tools like AI to coordinate and sync us all together so that we have a comprehensive solution or status reports to the client. If we do that, and we do that very effectively, we're able to deliver everything that the client's looking for at a lower cost, very, very much more competitive. Quality-wise, it would be right up there. And from a delivery standpoint, I would make the argument we would be a lot more nimbler and faster because a lot of these smaller clients, you have the owners and the founders or the presidents directly involved in these projects. And so the decision-making is much more flat, and each of those smaller businesses can, come up with solutions or compromises in some cases much quicker than I think a bigger company can.
You know, we're I didn't know how to frame it this way, but we have taken an asymmetric approach to our business as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my sales marketing consultancy.
Yeah,
because we're small and lean, and we do exactly what you're saying. You know, we like our friends here at Anthem. You know, we're filming this video. I don't want to own a video studio and have to find good video people and all those kinds of things. But we do our part really well.
Yeah.
And we bring them in when we need to. I don't have to pay JP salary over there. And he's very,
in a way you have
to. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But you know, but it's such a good fit. And I think about it, and I think that, you know, that's that speed and nimble approach.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a perceived, because we go head to head with some big companies. So we compete with Bain, we compete with Accenture, we compete with some of these global giants that are killers and have a lot more brand awareness than we do and everything else. But I've seen a lot of the reports that we have to come in and clean up after those guys a lot of times. And I will tell you, our product is, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Others may disagree.
I'm sure it's
mileage may vary, but I think, you know, they left key things out that we would have never left out.
Right.
And I think there's something to, when you said you're dealing with owners, we've got a lot of skin in the game.
Yeah.
And it's our name attached to it.
Exactly.
I can't sweep something under the rug because my boss knows better. He caught me red-handed every time. Exactly. And so, you know, we have to deliver at a high level every single time.
Yeah.
Because we just, like I said, we just have too much skin in the game. But you know, those larger companies, they don't have to do that. You know, like
their salary.
Yeah, they win it, and they win the deal, and they put their best 23-year-olds on the problem, and they you know, try to do it. So I think, and they don't have to care. I really have to care. Yeah. And I won't work with people in my organization that don't care as much as I do about it.
Exactly.
And I have the liberty of being able to do it because I'm not going to hire. I'm not going to go to the best business schools and hire 4,000 people this year.
Right.
You know?
No, you're not.
And so it's a really interesting approach. And I think I think it is not only I think that has allowed you to compete better on price, but aside from that, I think you get a better product just for those reasons.
Yeah. I think it's the way of the times. And you know, I'm a product of large organizations, and I see the value in large organizations. Don't get me wrong, but you know, when you look at the top performers of these large organizations, they have the drive that an owner would have.
Sure,
but at some point in their career, they were put on a leash, or they were told to back off, or they were told that idea doesn't work. You got to go with the other idea. And it frustrates these top performers in a lot of cases.
That's right.
So then they become like you and me.
That's right.
We come out and we figure we could probably deliver what we used to deliver in a large organization, but do it much more quicker and from what the client needs. Because a project going awry, it doesn't arise from, a planned event going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's always an unplanned, unanticipated issue, and it's not dealt with very efficiently.
Sure.
And so that's the key issue.
Well, yeah, he's like, oh, we got to talk to my boss, and he's going to talk to his boss, and she needs to talk to her boss, and she's on vacation for 2 weeks, and all these things where it's like, if a client comes to me and says, hey, Richard, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
I'll say, well, let's talk about it right now.
Exactly.
And all our clients have my phone number.
Exactly.
My cell phone number.
Exactly.
And, I think I think people are going to learn to expect that kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
With their vendors and with their contract and their partners. I think we will see ourselves partners.
I get calls in the middle of the, having dinner with the family, and my wife will kill me for telling you this, but I put the fork down and I attend to the call.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that's probably going against the grain in terms of, the well-balanced lifestyle. But the reality of it is people who have their own businesses, they're founders, presidents, a lot of cases, work comes first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think work-life balance is good for everybody except for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work. Thing.
Doesn't work. No. If you want to do that, then you can't be an entrepreneur.
You can't do it. I've always felt like that's such a for employees 100%. You should.
Yeah.
And I encourage our employees to have
what we want to do.
Balance. I really encourage them to take vacations and really unplug and all those things, but that doesn't work out for
you're the owner.
Yeah, no.
There's no there's no behind,
No, it's 100% sure. I've got a great management team that they can field a lot of things, but I never stop thinking about work.
Exactly.
My spare time I read business books. I mean, I just can't.
Exactly.
It's just a part of it. And if that's not what you want in your life, I would not recommend entrepreneurship.
100% agree.
Well, I think this is a sales marketing, primarily a sales and marketing podcast. Yeah. We talked a lot about the business of EPC. Yeah. We kind of touched on the commercial models and all that. But tell me, one of the things I find about interesting in a situation like this from a sales and marketing perspective, you're spinning up this company, and it's a company that in the EPC world, long sales cycles, lots of backlog, all these things. And I don't think that people fully appreciate how challenging it is to sell these jobs. You're talking about a $300 million job. Yeah. And by the way, that's small in your world, but that's a big project.
That's a huge project for me.
And it's and I think that's a very, I don't know how many people out there have tried to sell a $300 million project.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. It takes a lot of time. Why don't you walk us through how you got your first customers? Because also, the other thing is you're operating from a perspective where you don't have a ton of brand recognition. You're talking about Burns and McDonnell and all these companies that they advertise at the Astros Stadium and Daikin Park, and people know who they are internationally. Yeah. So how have you done it?
Well, the beauty of PKU Industries is that I don't have to do everything on my own. And I think if I was to have started this business on my own, probably would have approached it differently or not have done it at all, because I know how difficult it is to win your first job. Mm-hmm. Our first order that we received came about through the association with our partnering company in Korea.
Yeah.
So they bid into a project, and through that association, the client needed a boots on the ground engineering company to help them to navigate through different regulatory issues, and as well as certifying a lot of the design that was happening in Korea, and to validate it and to certify it to be applicable here in the U.S. So that's how we came about, through that association. I know it's a unique opportunity because not a lot of companies have that.
Yeah.
But even that, with that opportunity, it's hard. It's hard because nobody knows PKU Industries, and I've been for the last year trying to go to trade shows or association meetings and do what I can. What I'm finding out is that where I have an expertise in something or anything, I will provide that knowledge pro bono, and I have to do it willingly. Meaning, if there are follow-up questions, if there are additional information I have to provide, that I have to invest the time and effort to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And so I've done a couple of those things related to power projects, carbon capture, hydrogen. And I think that's starting to produce traction in getting the name out. In addition to our Korea partner bringing work here to the U.S., we want to create local organic type of growth here.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. We gave ourselves, at least like 2 years to kind of get the wheel rolling. But I think we're well on our way. We've won, as I said, our first order is very small, but it is a material size. So I think we can leverage that, market that, use that as a track record. And as you know, your second order is always a little bit easier. And then the third is a little bit more easier, and it gets easier and easier to win new orders.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I remember when I was a young kid and I wanted my first credit card, and they were like, well, you can't have a credit card unless you have a job. And I was like, well, I need a job. But they like, you can't have a job unless you have experience. And it's like, how do I get experience if I don't have a job?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. I felt the same way when I started the company. I thought, oh, well, we got to, I worked for a big consulting firm before that, an agency. And then a million case studies. The company had been around for 25 years. And so they had all these case studies and this wealth of content that I could use, when I was selling there and doing business development for them. I go and I'm, had the crazy idea to jump ship and do my own thing. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I have no case studies. Nobody knows my brand.
Right.
I gotta figure this out fast.
Right. Here you are, published author. Yeah. Yeah. Your name's well out there. And yeah,
but like you said, you just, that wheel, once it starts spinning, it spins.
Yeah.
But to get that first millimeter
first one is hard. Yeah.
First rotation around it is the challenging part. But,
very, very hard.
But yeah, but don't you think, isn't there something very energizing about starting from scratch and figuring it out? And every day, there's a new challenge and you have to figure out, and you're always coming up with new ideas and testing things with your friend or the coworkers.
And you can test those things, but you have the ultimate responsibility. Now I have a couple of employees. I'm responsible for myself, the family, and to the employees as well. So that's tough. But the good thing is that if I have an idea, we can try it. We can take that risk. We can, invest a little bit of money to try it and see if it help things like this development of this AI tool that I was telling you about. The association with the partnering company helped a lot because they helped to invest in that AI tool.
Sure.
I probably couldn't have done it by myself.
Right.
One. And two, had I been with a larger organization, a lot of the ideas...
You're going to go and launch this new AI tool. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we would have created a task force team of some number of engineers.
And then IT would have said no.
No, HR would have said no.
There are a lot of people that say no, that get paid to say no in those organizations. Exactly. So, that freedom is really is what it's really all about.
Well, that's why I think entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs, for that freedom, but well knowing that you have all that heavy responsibility behind you.
Well, the big company I worked for was a French company, and I realized that bureaucracy is a French word.
Oh, that's going to go over well. That G7 summit.
Yeah, no offense, my friends that are here for the World Cup.
Yeah,
from France. One of the things we talked about when you talk about the getting that first sell and talking about marketing your company and getting the word out is the idea of a value proposition. Yeah. And what would you say your value propositions are for PKU?
Well, so in my 30 plus years of training, I've come to try to develop strategies and what I'm trying to communicate in a manner that's easy to remember. So I thought about how to go about doing this, and what I ended up with is taking the word trust, because I've always been a firm believer that trust is the main glue or the catalyst that makes relationships work.
That's right.
So trust. So if you break down that word trust into acronyms, and I look, thought about the components of how you work that develop that trust. There are 5 words that start with the different acronyms of the word trust. So first word is T. You have to be tactical. And what I mean is you make day-to-day decisions, but you have a clear goal of delivering high quality but low cost product to the client to be competitive. So that from a tactical standpoint, especially around like supply chain and partnerships, those things you have to make a decision.
It's
every day, and that decision kind of directs where you end up. So being very tactical about the decisions and being deliberate. Then the next word is R, reliable. I think, when a customer wants, let's say, a letter or a contract revision, or they want an answer to a question, and you say, well, I'll deliver it tomorrow, I'll deliver it this week, you do it. It's, when you make a promise, you deliver. And over time, you become very reliable in that sense. Also, the services you provide has to be reliable in that you're consistent in what you're saying. You're not saying one thing one day and another thing another day. You have to be very consistent. So reliable is the second. And the U is upstanding, because this is like, having high integrity, being compliant to all of the rules and regulations, but on top of that, having a sense of responsibility towards the society, right? So whether you volunteer or do something, whether you do something small in the office and say, look, we're going to try to conserve energy, or not produce as much waste, or whatever it may be. Being upstanding, being part of the community, I think is very important to the client, but more important to your employees, because they will relate to that. The next is S, right? S is being strategic. So tactical is looking at the day-to-day. Strategic is looking a little bit further beyond and looking at what are emerging technologies, emerging processes, emerging trends, and seeing whether or not you have to adapt to those changes that's going on, and how relevant it is. So being strategic, looking ahead. And then the last is technical, trust, T. And what I mean by that is I want our clients to think of PKU Industry as the foremost expert in the field that we are good at, the core competencies. Anything related to process engineering, anything related to mechanical, anything related to power generation, carbon capture, and a question comes up, I want them to say, well, PKU Industry is an expert here. So we want to get to a point where we provide such services that we are recognized as a technical expert. So take those words together. I think all those aspects of it, when you put them all together, it not only forms a word trust, it actually do develop a trust with one another.
I like it, and not only like it from an outward looking marketing and value prop type of perspective, but also from a recruiting perspective. I think that's something those are the kinds of things you can hold your team accountable to. No, we're not going to do that because we have to be upstanding. You're talking about the reliability. You touched on a couple of things like the report generation and all that. We do a lot of voice of customer research for clients. And a lot of times we go in and we'll talk to customers that are maybe sometimes they're mad at the client, but they haven't really been super upfront with them about why they're mad at them. And to preserve relationships, and some people telling, that I think some people find it difficult to have a challenging conversation with other people face to face. They'd rather just fire them and move on and find another vendor. And I think one of the things that we've always found in the voice of customer research is it is the things that you just described with the delivering reports on time.
Yeah.
And we had one client that was on the verge of getting fired by their customer. And the guy said, you know what, they do a great job. They, the work is good.
Yeah.
They finish it on time. But the one thing that really aggravates me, and I'm really and we're really looking to replace them right now, is because they never hand the reports in on time. They said it's going to happen in 2 weeks. Yeah. And I have to go and deliver that report I have to synthesize it and deliver it to my boss for our meeting. Yeah. And it never comes on time. And I look stupid in front of my boss. And every time I've talked to them about it, they say they're going to fix it. They're going to fix it. And they just never fix it. Right. And I can't have this anymore.
Right.
And when I told the client our client, they said, he never said anything about that. He didn't say it was a big deal. I said, well, did you tell him you would give it to him every 2 weeks? And they're like, yeah, it's standard boilerplate thing. Yeah. And I said, well, he's counting on it. And if you can't get this fixed, you're going to get run off. And the CEO said, this news I can use. Trust me, we're going to fix this. Wow. But it just goes to show you, it's those little things that I think technical companies don't, a lot of times they just overlook that kind of stuff. Yeah. They just think, oh, it's just, of course, it's table stakes. They don't really need that stuff. But they didn't realize what.
Yeah, they don't know
the commotion of
why they need that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't think to ask, why do you need that in 2 weeks? And so I think that's really...
Or even a call that says, hey, I run into some difficulties. It may take a few more days, but I will deliver in three days later. That, just being open about that, I think goes a long ways towards that earlier discussion around collaboration and understanding.
Oh, 100%. I want to know the bad news. Yeah, send that to me by FedEx. And the other can come by boat. But I need to. I want to know the bad news long before it becomes a really big problem.
Exactly,
for sure. Especially, I work on tiny little, inconsequential projects compared to delivering a gas plant or.
Oh no. No, one thing I've learned is there is no such thing as a small project. Even the ones that are small that may seem inconsequential, they hold a big, that it causes a big ripple effect if you do not deliver on that small piece. And that's where that reliability comes into play, is there is no questions asked. It's when you promise something, you have to deliver.
Yeah, 100%. You only have one reputation in this world.
Exactly.
And you don't want to. Yeah. Somebody, one of my executive coaches that I work with has told me that trust is gained in ounces and lost in buckets.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a very wise man.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
Anybody's been in trouble with their wife knows this too. Oh.
Yeah.
Sure, honey, I'll do it. Oh no, I didn't do it. I didn't do the honeydew.
She would amplify that by many times, but yeah.
What are you seeing about how are you handling year one's under your belt?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you got some momentum going and all that. How are you looking at year two from commercially?
I think it all depends on how we deliver on the first project. But I think the word is getting out. Like I said, the pro bono type of work, whether it be, in an association or giving a speech or giving, those things are actually gaining traction. It's something that I realize is pretty effective. So we'll probably focus a lot more on those pro bono type of stuff. I'm actually going back to Korea to talk to some key clients and let them know, hey, we're more established than when we were, when we first started, and hopefully I could drum up some more business on that sense. And then at the end of the day, I think, everything I told you, I've got to be pretty consistent in executing, creating that trust, the collaboration, whether it's through tools or a relationship with partners or whatever it may be. It always goes back to, well, what does the client's project need, and how we can deliver that. I think that as long as we stay focused, and I've got great engineers who joined us, well-seasoned engineers, and their mindset is very close to what I'm saying. In fact, that was the basis of why they were hired. I think we could deliver something meaningful to our clients. So yeah, I'm very hopeful, but I'm always hope for the best but prepare for the worst type of guy.
You have to.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said there, I really like. We do, we do sales consulting as part of our what we deliver for our clients. And one of the things that I found is interesting what you just said of, let's go back and talk to some people we pitched but lost.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a smart thing to do. I think one of the things that we have a lot of isms in our company, and one of our isms is we break down sales teams into two categories: zoo tigers and jungle tigers.
Oh.
And so, the zoo tigers are the ones that kind of wait for the deals to come to them.
Yeah.
And, the zookeeper to bring in steaks. And the jungle tigers are out and about. They're in the hunting. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're in the jungle, if they are in Siberia or whatever, they're going to eat, and they're going to go find the prey.
Wow.
And they both have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And as a founder seller, you have to be a jungle tiger.
Oh, you are. Yeah.
You're a jungle tiger. There's nobody to bring you a steak.
You're always hungry.
You're always hungry. And so one of the things that's interesting is that the weakness of a jungle tiger is they like new things. Yeah. They want to chase the next gazelle, right? Yeah. They want to go after all these other things, and they don't think to go back a lot of times and go, look, we've got these closed loss deals in our pipeline that we should probably go back and revisit and really analyze it and see what happened, And in your case, it probably was that maybe they were like, well, we haven't heard of these guys. They don't have a track record. Yeah. This is too risky. Yeah. I don't want to chance it yet. But to come back to them now is, I think, a really smart move.
Yeah.
Because you might have better results. And I think you can also look at them and really game plan them, because you know those people really well now. You've already talked to them. You've already talked to the people in the buying committee, and you can really plan that, orchestrate all the people in the buying center a lot more clearly. It's hard to go into a situation where maybe a lot of our clients, they might have 10, 12 people in the buying committee.
Yeah.
Because it's some big deals.
That's true.
And you're only going to probably, if you can talk to 3 of the 10 people, that's outstanding. And it's very difficult to map that buying center, to the cold company. But with those kind of companies, you really increase your odds a lot. And people a lot of times are like, well, they don't like us and they didn't want to work with us. We have to move on, especially jungle tigers.
Oh, no.
It's a smart way to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely going back. And I think your words of encouragement actually is giving me a lot more optimism with this upcoming trip.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, good luck. Best of luck to you. And I think it's, you'll probably have better results because you've got a track record.
I hope so.
Say, look, here's how this project's going, and all that. And I think your collaborative approach is a good way to think of it too.
Well, I mean, just the fundamentals of that. We are now officially registered as an engineering company in Texas, Louisiana, and Tennessee.
Wow.
We've got, certified, professional engineers on staff. We've got a coalition of other expert companies that fill areas where we're not so good at yet. but we can collaborate with these companies. And so I think I can frame a picture where the larger power projects from A to Z, that we could handle everything because we've got means to access all these different resources, and that we've got that fundamental set of resources that we need, and plus the partner in Korea to back us up. So I think, to your point, I think it'll be a much more effective sales pitch than I was making about a year ago before I came here to Houston.
Yeah, trust me.
Trust me.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll be great. I've got a background. I'm a nice guy. Let's go. Yeah, we've got a lot. We've got this engineering power behind us. But yeah, when you can really come with that, I think that really helps. I think especially we work with a lot of companies that are. I don't know why this happened, but for some reason we fell into working with companies that were trying to enter the United States market. I mean, they saw the same macro trends that you saw about why the U.S. is desirable.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's been really interesting to work with those type of companies. And when you say, well, we help this company enter this market, and we help this company enter this market, and we help this country into this market, they really go, oh, well, this is the person we want to, because I think that is, and now that you're here, boots on the ground, you said, look, well, we help this project come over here, and here's what we know now that we didn't know a year ago, and you were probably right to be skeptical of us then. And here's what we've learned, and here's some things that if you partner with somebody else, to these deals, they may not know these things.
Yeah. You know what, an idea popped in my mind is, I think you're also in a very unique position of interviewing all these different type of enterprises and companies. And if you just happen to detect commonality in some of the trends and things going on, you could open up a call, and it's a purely voluntary, just have an open discussion call about, what people are thinking. I think I would join that call just to learn from other people.
Sure.
And see, who are other like-minded people and how they're thinking. It would validate some of the thinkings that I have. And also it would give me an opportunity to kind of let the world know, hey, we exist. Yeah. And I think you might be in a very unique position to be able to, coordinate that.
That would be fun. Now you heard it here first. It's going to be our next, it's going to be a group podcast. Yeah, I think it would be good too, because I think, we helped a Belgian hydrogen company enter the United States. We've helped a Swedish telecom company into the United States, or hopefully this hasn't closed yet, but hopefully we're going to be working with a German company to enter the United States. And German manufacturer for packaging equipment. And so it's really interesting. The thing I've noticed about all of them, one of my key takeaways from a commercial side is I think people that enter the United States are not prepared for the level of marketing intensity that is commonplace here. I think especially Europeans, they've come, it's much more gentlemanly over there. And there's a lot more sales led. And they're not prepared to rank the volume up they need to here. We're loud Americans. We're going to be, we're going to really...
And we're in Texas.
And we're in Texas even louder. And so, I think you got to be able to get above that volume. I think if you're a Belgian company, you're used to talking at level 3 volume. You come to America, you're going to be 8 or above. And when you're in Texas, at 10 or above.
At least.
We're loud. And I think that level of aggression is, it's just what it takes here. And because there's a lot of competition, there's a lot more noise, we have very worthy adversaries, the things that maybe differentiated you in Europe. You come here and maybe they're not the same differentiators, or maybe they don't even value them at all.
Exactly.
It's like maybe they value something wholly different. And so I think that's a really challenging thing that we've found, because when our clients come to us and they say, look, we've thought this through, and here's here's our differentiation, here are our value propositions. We tend to take their word for it. Yeah. And we go into the market and go, this is not moving the needle at all. Right. They don't seem to be interested in these things. And they're like, well, it worked great in the UK. Well, there's not playing here.
Exactly.
And so how do we rethink that and maybe do a little bit more research on the...
Getting more feedback. I think the U.S. companies have to be tapped into what feedback is being provided and really be open to changing based on the feedback.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I think that is, you ever read that book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the key readings for GE leadership.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the company I worked for had similar things. They make you read Getting to Yes.
Yeah.
And Crucial Conversations. Yeah. It was great. It was a great education.
I have all those books.
I still prefer back to them. I'm like, what is my BATNA?
Exactly.
I love it. Well, so let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit more about AI. This is a podcast in 2026. We got to talk about AI. Yeah, we've already touched on it a lot, but it's central to what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
and it's going to be the thing that helps you get asymmetric, relative to your larger competitors. What's your AI thesis for how you're going to use it to differentiate yourself?
I'm a believer of AI, that I think AI will make a difference, but also being very cautious because I've tried it. I've tried various different things for it to do certain tasks. And I think there's still limitations.
Yeah.
And unless you are giving it tasks with a certain purpose, that purpose in the grand scheme of things, I think has to come from you.
Yeah.
Still, humans have to create what that purpose is and how it fits into that bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve. If you could do that, I think AI right now is a very, very powerful tool. If you expect AI to be able to do that for you, then I think what you'll see is that they fall short, or sometimes even go off on tangents and really mess up your entire process. So that's the reason why our AI development doesn't hinge on large language models, and that we are trying to create a more specific AI agent that is based on a smaller language model, and a lot of that trend data or the past data that gives the the material in which the AI would refer back to. We have control over that. And so, this intellectual property vault, IP vault, where that's kind of the value of our partner company and PKU. We put our knowledge into there, and we allow that AI access to that. And obviously, for obvious reasons, we don't want to open that to the public because then I'd be out of business.
Your trade secrets go down there.
Yeah. So that's kind of the approach that we are going at. Eventually, all those things, I think, what we consider IP vault or trade secrets, they're all going to be out in the open eventually.
Sure.
But who knows how long that will take. But until that time frame, you create it, and then we'll just have to adapt as AI changes too.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things too. As we were using things, we've started to develop pretty clear codified processes, and we gated our content, and we now we're sharing our processes across teams and sharing agents and these kinds of things, and it's been very exciting. And like I said, I'm not a hugely process-oriented person by nature, but one of my partners, Shannon, is very process-oriented.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, we got to get our processes documented for this and this idea, but I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But what are we going to do when, Orion with Claude now, Sonnet, whatever is here, and then they had the one that the president said you can't release that.
Yeah.
And so Limerick or whatever, whatever they were named
Just recently,
and Fable.
That's it.
And you go, wow, that is, how might that change our processes? Yeah. And also, I'm on the fence about, do we need some of these software that we're ever in our processes now? Because I think we can go around it. Like documenting it now may be a little bit too mature. Because it is, once you document a process and you say, thou shalt all follow this process, people will do it.
Exactly.
And then you're lost because you can no longer have that fresh look at it like you guys were able to take.
Well, you got to be very careful because an AI, the original of AI came from neural net. So, GE folks were into that Six Sigma thing, right?
Yeah,
transfer functions, and this is what causes, transfer functions that define the output, right?
Mm-hmm.
So x1 times blah, 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 and x2, x3, and that equals y, right?
Yeah.
So that's the transfer function. But neural net take that to a upper quadrant, so it's x squared and x cubed, and it was able to handle all that. So that was neural net, and neural net predicted the outcome much more closely. So, in statistics terms, the R squared value is higher for a neural net model than a standard typical transfer function. So I think with the advent of the GPU being so powerful and so quick, they were able to take that concept, neural net concept, and really make it go very, very fast.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all that neural net is doing is taking a bunch of data, form-fitting it, and predict the outcome. Yeah. And that's how the large language model came about, right?
All the tokens and all that.
So if you know that, and you say, well, thou shalt follow this process to your point, it will lock into that process. But if you say, well, here are the potential outcomes, this is the upside, this is the downside, this is how we made the decision. In this particular case, we went there because, and those are the kind of the data inputs that we want to put into the IP vault.
Yeah.
So that we're teaching the AI that because it has such a bigger capacity to look at different sort of data and how it fits into the outcome that it's predicting, that I think that's the theory, at least. That give it those type of all different types of data and see what spits out.
Sure.
And my hunch is that it will pick up things that no human will be able to pick up, if that database gets big enough.
I think you're right about that. And it's the same for humans.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a boss that was a micromanager?
Yeah.
And every time you try to think outside the box or question something, like, stop doing that, stop doing it. Well, I was in a job like that, and I stopped thinking for myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
As a person, I've always been challenging and thinking about things and trying to come up with interesting angles around things.
Exactly.
But if you have somebody that slaps you every time you don't do it and boxes you and says, no, do this, you don't think for yourself and you don't live up to your potential. So why wouldn't AI be that same thing?
Yeah, that's not a very sophisticated transfer function. Very straightforward. But as you know, in a lot of the leadership books, the good organizations give enough, they set boundaries, but you give your employees flexibility and freedom to make decisions, but within a boundary. And they can go any way possible. And the outcome is usually a lot better at the end of the day. It may be inefficient in the beginning because there's a whole bunch of ideas back and forth, but at the end of the day, the outcome is usually better, and those organizations tend to adapt better.
That's right.
To changes and delivering more meaningful output. So that's the idea here is, yes, large language models is too broad.
Mm-hmm.
We want to narrow it down because we are specialized in engineering services, but we also don't want to constrain it. We want to give it, like I said, we don't want to over-engineer because this is what the spec says, but we say, well, there is some leeway in how we interpret this. And hopefully the AI will pick that up and say, well, can I apply it to other applications?
That's such a, well, and I think in that situation, you'll find that AI is going to come up with questions you probably wouldn't have even considered about that. Or, its understanding of physics and these things is pretty scarily good. And
very good.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden you go, wow, that's I'm surprised that it knew that, and so apply across a lot of different areas.
Absolutely,
and simultaneously, where you would maybe have a blind spot, or maybe had a fluids expert, you don't have an expert on laminar flow or whatever in your thing, but this one might be. I've read all the literature. And so it's really interesting. One of the things you're talking about with employees, the way I tell my team is I say, listen, this is what we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Here's the things that are no-go zones.
Right.
Here's the things outcomes that we can't have happen. Mm-hmm. But treat it like it's your money.
Yeah.
It's coming out of your pocket. Mm-hmm. You'd come to me with a solution.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. But at the end of the day, you get 51% of the vote.
Wow.
I'll challenge you. I'll challenge your thinking. But at the end of the day, if you really think that that's the case, then we'll do it.
Yeah.
But you have to follow those. You have to follow within those parameters.
Right.
And people really like that. I think they like that autonomy, but also they go, wow, with great power comes great responsibility. I don't want to let Richard down on this. Let me rethink my answer.
Exactly.
Can I come back in 2 days?
Exactly.
Yes, come back in 2 days with a new presentation. Follow I will repeat the parameters and say go. And the output is pretty darn good.
Yeah. And if the firm profits off of that, I think there should be incentive to reward.
Yeah, that's right.
And if that culture at the end of the day, if that's just it gains momentum and it becomes like embedded into the culture and the DNA of all the employees, I really think they're, like it's you can't even imagine what could come out of it.
Well, yeah. Well, I know I'm good at some things, but there's a whole world of things I'm not good at. And there's even a bigger world of things I'm terrible at. Yeah. So I hire people who are good at those things. Exactly. That I'm not good at, and I don't pretend to be the expert on there. That's why I hired them.
Yeah,
you're the expert. You tell me.
Yeah,
I don't know about HubSpot dashboard setup. I don't want to learn about that. You do it.
Exactly.
Well, talk to me about energy transition and CCUS. Why do you feel like that is a good bet for your organization?
I think carbon capture, contrary to belief that Trump administration is anything that's environment friendly, that they go up against it. That's not true. In fact, they took the Inflation Reduction Act, and there's a particular portion of it that provides tax credit for carbon capture and storage, long-term storage. And there is a tax credit related to enhanced oil recovery. So people who are in the industry know what they mean by when I say EOR, right?
Yep.
So EOR is basically pumping CO2 into a well that is nearly depleted, and through that pressure, it enhances the recovery of the last remaining oil. Anyway, By doing that, you store the CO2 into basically the depleted caverns, right? In the past, it was there was some tax credit involved. I believe it was $65 a ton, but Trump administration came in and they've increased that to $85 per ton.
Wow!
So $85 per ton was the basis for carbon capture and storage. Typical, like you capture it and you pump it into the ground. No additional value come out of it. But EOR adds value to the oil and gas company, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of unrecovered oil in these depleted wells.
Exactly.
People, they know it's there.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it out.
Yeah. But CO2 will help. It'll kill, two birds with one stone in that you're storing it and you're getting enhanced oil recovery. And so your production rate goes up. So I think, I know it's not a well-known thing, but the fact that the tax credit went up for that particular thing, it's actually good for the environment because it incentivizes the companies to utilize carbon capture and storage and then they get something out of it.
Yeah.
So in the past, the $85 was not enough. In a lot of sense, in economic sense, because you have to invest to build out the infrastructure and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah.
But with the EOR, which provides some value, and the tax credit, then the economics change.
Yeah.
The enhanced tax credit, the economics change, and I suspect that in the back room somewhere, somebody in the oil and gas, all the oil and gas companies, some expert is saying, the economics have changed.
Yeah.
So we need to look at this, especially in Texas, where now the law has changed so that the permitting, the permitting responsible party is no longer the federal government. It has trickled down to the state government.
Yeah, Railroad Commission.
Yeah, Railroad Commission. So I think that in itself is a big advocating change to carbon capture.
Yeah, well, because I think we have a client that helps with those projects and getting permitting and things like that. That was the first step. They can do all the technical stuff. They've been able to do that for a long time because they've been doing it.
Yeah,
EOR
been around for a long time.
Let's just call it tertiary production. And so, they've spent a lot of time on that, but they said, we're just going to focus right now on just getting things permitted.
Yeah.
And but the problem, the risk for the customers is if we have to get this permitted from the federal government, and now that becomes a 3-year process.
Yeah.
And then who's to say 3 years from now that government's going to even be in place and what's going to change?
Exactly.
They just say, well, it's too much uncertainty. Let's worry about other projects. They only have certain projects they can entertain at one time anyway.
Right.
And so they high grade the different projects, and those just don't make it off the table because of the uncertainty associated with it.
Exactly.
And so, but this, I agree with you. I think this will help because the state of Texas is pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Especially to the oil and gas industry and just commercially in general. They're open for business. And so I think that could really, I think that might be one of the big risk reducers that can really unlock that thing, because that's always been the most frustrating thing to me about carbon capture. So they've been able to capture carbon at the fluke for a long time.
Yeah.
It's technology has not been around for a really long time, there's no mystery to it, and it's pretty. There's challenges to it. It's not to do it, but it's not a mysterious technology that we don't know.
It's been around for over 50 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I've always been very frustrated with that. It's like if the real problem with the environment is that we have produced too much carbon, that's a very solvable solution.
Yeah. And from a kind of like a moral, thing to do, that is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think everybody agrees, but then the economics is where the rubber meets the road. And I think the tax credits just didn't address it. Now, this upping the tax credit for the EOR, in addition to the value of the EOR, and in the state of Texas, where there's a lot of carbon capture that can occur, and there are different processes. So process-related carbon capture is a lot cheaper than a flue gas carbon capture, which has a lot of different other constituents that you have to separate out. But a process-related, where you're pulling hydrogen for, let's say, fertilizer and ammonia or urea, pulling CO2 off of that is actually fairly cheap, and they're not doing it right now. So if okay, so maybe I'm going down a conspiracy hole a little bit, but you look at some of the bottlenecks out of the Strait of Hormuz right now. It's not just oil. There's actually a lot of fertilizer.
That's
and
a
urea
bigger
and
problem.
That's actually a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And so
nobody needs a famine right now.
My feeling is that the industry is going to respond by creating manufacturing elsewhere. And U.S. is, spot on, like ready to do that and really ramp up production for export.
Sure.
If they do that, a lot of it is going to be in the southeast part of the country, in Texas, near Houston, and as I said, those carbon CO2 is actually cheap to capture. Capture it cheap, get very good tax credit, ship that to Exxon's or the other oil and gas majors to enhance their production. It's a win-win. At least in my opinion.
Well, then the other thing too is the transportation of it.
Yeah.
And we have all these pipelines that are inactive that the infrastructure's here.
Yeah.
So, shipping it's not going to be a problem. Capturing it is not going to be a problem. The economics are there.
Yeah.
Well, how do we get the rest of the world to do this? Because I'm all for it.
Well, I think Houston is in a unique position because of the focus on the petrochemicals, focus on the potentially, boosting production of ammonia, urea, fertilizer, and at the same time, it's right there to pump into the depleted wells.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of them around Texas.
Yeah, got a few of those around.
And so I think Texas is in a really unique position because the longer the greater the distance between where you have to send it to store it, you're adding cost, and pretty significantly.
Sure.
So if you reduce that, and it's all localized in an area such as Houston, Louisiana, I think there's tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, that is too. The thing that I didn't realize about it is I was like, how do you take that and ship it around? But it's a supercritical liquid at that point. And now you can, but it's corrosive.
It is very corrosive. So you've got to, so the company that I was CEO at, that was one of our key technical issues. It's making sure that the protection, the pipeline is well protected and continuously monitored.
And then again, that brings up the other point you just brought up, that it's a saving grace for oil companies. Is they're always having to deal with corrosive environments. That's another thing that they have not solved a million times over.
Yeah, they know.
And they know how to continuously monitor things.
Yeah, they know how to deal with it.
The other thing too is that in that world is when you pump it down, you have to guarantee that for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's really no other industry I can think of that's willing to make 100-year bet other than, or can even pretend to do it other than the oil and gas industry. So yeah, I think you're right. You're primed. So
I think they need to just, get around to seeing the value. Maybe, with the way the administration's moving now, it's more focused on, gearing up the growth of production of oil. But maybe with a change in administration, maybe with a little more focus on environment, they're going to be like, oh, there's money to be had.
That's the thing that always, was disappointing. I think about the way we talked about the environment with the last administrations. They never said, "Hey, there's money in it."
That's that. Yeah, I think they didn't do a good job of that.
But it'd go. We have a pretty good ecosystem, a new energy ecosystem here in Houston with the Greentown Labs and what's going on over at the Ion. And I went to a few of these conferences over there, and I thought, man, there's a lot of money to be made here, and you help the planet, and it's going to help the people. And so you go, wow,
that makes money.
Yeah, and there's a lot of money, and so you go, wow, and there was a lot of investment dollars being thrown at it, and I just thought, man, this is the way things should happen.
Yeah,
and then early kind of the new administration kind of dumped some cold water on that.
Yeah.
But like you said there, I think people took it too holistically, and they didn't look deeply enough at all the things, because there were winners and losers, 100%. And some technologies were made uneconomic, some were made more economic. Yeah. But I think that's where people that can recognize those opportunities, like yourself, and to get word out about it, is where we really need to be.
Yeah, and I'll get the word out, and if there's an interest in checking the feasibility from a technical standpoint, the economics behind it, that's where I think PKU can come in and handle a lot of that for you. To do the analysis, it's not like millions of dollars. It's a front end feasibility and front end engineering. And we could do all of those things so that you could evaluate.
Yeah.
And you could actually put it up on the, in the bookshelf until later. You could always pull that information out, because it would be very good reference material in terms of the economics behind carbon capture.
Sure. And they could even look at it and say, well, this is not, we don't have an appetite for this. Yeah. But if this variable changed to this, we would have a lot of appetite for that. Or if this variable goes down to this, then we would be able to have we would have a big appetite.
And what people don't know is actually carbon dioxide is a product not just to be stored, but it's actually one of the best cleaning agent for high techs like semiconductors. They actually need a lot of CO2 in the foundries, and they pay good money for them.
Wow.
And they're building foundries like the Terafab, for example.
Yeah.
They're going to need CO2. I can guarantee they're going to need hydrogen, and they're going to need CO2. And they're going to need other industrial gases, nitrogen, oxygen. So all these things there's a demand for them, and the demand's going to go up because they support high-tech products, high-tech industries.
Yeah.
So, the high-tech factories are ramping up. CO2, carbon capture, hydrogen generation, all these things are going to be very relevant, I think, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, that is good to know. Yeah. You heard it here first. I love it. No, I think that's very encouraging, because I think sometimes when you hear all these gloom and doom about the environment, and you feel like things can't change and these things, is very discouraging as a human trying to live on this planet. And make sure our kids can live on this planet.
Yeah.
And so when you can see that they're really, some of these challenges are not as big as they seem. They're overcome. You can overcome now, and it's economically sound to do that. In fact, it can be a net win on all fronts. And I think that just encouraging people to take advantage of those opportunities is really critical.
Yeah, especially the states that border the Gulf area, South Gulf, Louisiana, maybe even Alabama, but Texas certainly can benefit because of the proximity to where everything has to fit together. I think, you could keep your costs down relative to everywhere else. The permitting and the rules and laws and regulations are much more, at a state level now. So it's easier and less sophisticated than at federal level. I think all of the things are kind of being set in place. Somebody just needs to put it all together and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking for a carbon capture feasibility study, you know where to go now.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but kind of stepping back in 35 years in power generation, where you've been able to gain a lot of knowledge and all that. What do you know now about building an engine in this complex industries now that you would wish you would have known when you got started?
I think I put a lot more emphasis on relationship and building trust. Before it was, I would have to admit that I was probably a lot more overconfident, to the border of being cocky, of being able to thinking I knew more.
Youth.
The youth, the poison of youth. But I think if there's one thing that I've changed over the years is, I think you said it best when you said, I don't know everything, but I know what I know, what I don't know, and I am willing to delegate what I don't know to people and give them freedom to, and I don't micromanage them and do what they need to do. That's one sense. And then with the client point of view, they may have an idea that is never going to work, but there's an underlying reason why they're bringing that up. So you can't dismiss it. You have to try to, you have to kind of clean your mind to all of the, I would say, prejudgment, assumptions, and put that aside. I think that probably is the one thing that I've changed over the years.
That is very well said, and I think you have to have a little gray on your head to say something like that, because it's so true. I remember in my 20s, I was like, these guys are all idiots, and now I have conversations with my son. And it's my job to give him advice, whether he likes it or not. Most of the time he does not like it and doesn't accept it.
Same.
And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you have everything in the world figured out now that you're 22, the ripe age of 22 years old.
Guilty as charged on my end too.
I know. Well, and so I was giving him a hard time about it, and I was complaining to my friends, and they were like, yeah, our sons don't listen to us either. And then I thought about it, and I was with my dad, and he was giving me stock advice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what is he talking about? And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm still doing it.
Exactly.
Fathers and sons.
Exactly.
I guess for to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
If you were if you're some for our B2B listeners that are on the sales and commercial side, or just in these technical industries that we serve, what is the one thing that you would like for them to focus on based on what we discussed today?
I think, we talked about AI, we talked about how the industry's changing, we talked about the challenges and all that. One thing that I feel like is that we're going into the times of change, a lot faster change than we're probably, people our age that we're used to.
Yeah.
Things are changing so fast that it's almost like on a daily or weekly basis that your prior assumptions is no longer true.
I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And so, if there's anything, I would say, don't fear that change. Try to look at it as an opportunity. Now, I'll have to admit, I don't like change either. I don't. I mean, inherently, I just makes me feel uncomfortable, but try to live with that uncomfort and see if there's anything that you could take, the change that's occurring that you have to adapt to and go, and go with the flow on that. I think if you do that, you'll be fine. Like this thing with idea around carbon capture, right? It was set in stone that it's non-economical.
Mm-hmm.
But there's change. So then you have to rewrite that equation and reevaluate it. And if you reevaluate it, I've done my calculations. I think it actually makes sense now, economically. Not huge amounts of money, but it's the right thing to do, and you're making money off of it.
Yeah.
So I think open your mind to those changes, because if the general public has shut their mind on CCS being non-economical, but you took the change that's occurring, reapplied it to your process or your company, and lo and behold, it's different. It's now profitable. Well, you've gained legs up on everybody else.
Yeah.
And if you're the first to market for an idea and you capture it very fast, you could establish a next growth engine for your company or wherever you work. And I think we're in a time where there's so many of those changes that are occurring, and they're all, in my opinion, opportunities.
I don't know many companies that wouldn't welcome a new revenue stream in their organization.
Exactly.
I sure would love one in mine. Well, James, those are great words of wisdom to leave us on today. What if somebody wants to learn more about PKU, where can they go to find out more about you guys?
Well, we do have a web page, pkuindustries.com. We are in the process of updating based on the changes that have occurred. But yeah, you could get general information there, or you could email me, or I'll leave my phone number with you for guests who wants to get in touch with me. But they could email me, they can phone me, and I'll try to make myself available.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, I look forward to hearing more of your talks, and that's where I've first learned about you, was your talk you did for that's a organization that we belong to.
Yeah.
And I think you have some really fresh thinking on CCUS, and I love what you're bringing to that. And I'm just really excited for you and your company as you really are starting to get the company off the ground. So I wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Really, really enjoyed the talk, and I was actually a little bit intimidated with all these cameras, but I think you made a very, very welcoming environment, and I thank you for that.
Well, thanks, and thanks to our good friends over at Anthem Creative for letting us use this beautiful studios.
Fantastic.
So thanks, guys. And if anybody needs an awesome video crew with with beautiful equipment and beautiful studio to shoot in, they're great people to work with. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, James.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing, sharing, or spreading the news about us on your favorite channel. Thank you for tuning into Above the Clouds, Stories from the Boardroom. Until next time, stay above the clouds.